So all of you are aware of what happened to Karen. All of you are familiar with the case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rephrase your question, and if you have a problem with my rephrasing, tell me. Do you approve of the process? Do you approve of the process? Do you think the process was handled properly? Because none of you are involved in the process, but all of you are aware of it. Is that a good reflection of what you, would that be how you would phrase your question to everybody else?
No, I was trying to get to the fact that there are two perceptions out there. One,
Yeah, but we got to,
number one is
we
James
have
is
to
too
move
ambitious.
beyond just James.
He
We
was
have to present
speaking.
your question
Num-
to everybody else.
Number two is that he is perceived by many people as causing Karen's downfall. I
Right.
don't think that he caused her downfall, but that's the perception of a lot of the people
Right.
out there. And that needed to be addressed if he's running for office.
Which he
Well, I-
did,
I
but we
think
have
it's
to
addressed.
expand it to the other
I think he
candidates.
really did address that situation.
We have to expand it to the other candidates.
This was not about one person trying to topple over somebody else. So, let's just go on, we'll speak about this if you need to.
To expand the same question to the other candidates. You are familiar with the process, you are not part of it, but you're familiar with the process. Do you believe that the process was properly handled? Do you believe that the process was appropriate? And we'll start,
How can they make a statement about that?
because they are familiar with the process.
How can they make a statement? Why would you ask them to make a statement about that?
Okay, because your removal is the biggest thing that has happened on the local level since I have been involved in this union and far beforehand. So it is the single largest event, and all the most important documents are now a part of public record.
Fine. These brothers here are not in a position to make that statement any more than any other single person who has read the documents is in a position to say, okay? The
But
question
Karen, they
of
can
the
Okay,
still,
let's put it
process
this way.
They
is
can
not
still-
what they
fair
need to
question.
know.
can they still, they can ask,
Stop.
they can
Is it
ask
a
the
fair
question
question?
themselves. Would that be a fair question to
With
both
the process.
Brooks as well as
The
Mr.
process
Wilson?
regarding the discipline of Karen, is it even a fair question to address it to you? So let's do it that way. Is it even a fair question since we're not involved in the process? We can do it yay or nay, there's only three of you. Okay, yay, is it even appropriate to approach it
Let
that
him
way?
finish.
Nay.
And Louis?
The way you phrase the question, I say nay.
And, okay, that's 2 out of 3. Okay, we need, this videotape is going to go to the other branches. We need to address the local issues, not just the gray line issues. So I would ask that as the questions are asked, we don't just focus on the 2 candidates we're familiar with, that we start addressing a candidacy that is going to represent more than one company. What do you want from a vice president who is responsible for things larger than just gray line? So does Karen?
I have a question. Has the executive board raised their own salary while they raised the dues of the membership?
No,
They still have the same salary they had before?
the same total quantity of salary is unchanged.
What?
If you add up all the salaries of the members of the executive board, they are unchanged.
That's not what I asked you. Did the executive board, since I left office, raise their own salaries? What I asked you.
And I'm attempting to answer, but you're interrupting me again, Karen.
Yes or no?
Karen,
Yes?
I'm going to answer the question.
I'm waiting.
There are currently 6 members of the executive board. If you add up the total salaries before Karen was in office and after Karen was in office, the bottom number is unchanged. A few months ago, President Ventola, at an executive board meeting, said that he felt that the president was overpaid and that the other members of the board were underpaid. And so he gave up a portion of his salary and had it redistributed down to other board members. Personally, I got an extra $20 a week. I made $150, now I get $170. That is calculated as being 1 day's work. Although on average I work about 3 days a week there, I'm still only paid for 1 day.
Don't you think that's something you should have shared with the people? There is no confidential, this confidential thing that you keep talking about. You are doing our work. We don't work for you. You work for us. So what I'm trying to understand is, I've heard you say several times today that things should be confidential. So I'm asking you, Mr. Ortiz, and you, Mr. Brooks, at what level, aside from obviously divulging financial information, but at what level would you increase or decrease the amount of information? I'm not talking about bells and whistles and computers and all that. I'm talking about the information that the people understand, not what you tell them, what they understand about what the executive board is doing. What would you do to change that?
Well, I wouldn't change, I would do what I've always done. When anyone asks me a question about any level of capacity in the local, from recording secretary to vice chairman to chairman to executive board to secretary treasurer to VP to president, I answer the question. If it is a sensitive issue, I will tell the member, I think you're gonna have to bring it up at an executive board meeting. There is where you get your answer. If it's also an answer that I cannot answer, if it's a question that I say, you know, I don't know, I'll try and find out. If it comes back to me that it's sensitive, then I will return to that member and say, it's sensitive, you need to bring it to the executive board. That's where all your questions get answered. You require time at the executive board, and in front of the executive board, you bring your questions. It's the same. Huh?
Actually,
I have a
hang on, we
question?
gotta get a couple more answers on that one, then we'll get to you.
Well,
My answer would be the same.
Because when you don't stay with one
Mr. Ortiz
person,
said.
No, that's what we're trying to do.
Well, she asked the question to two of
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
So my answer would be exactly the same as his. I mean, you don't divulge anybody information until, you know, it comes before the executive board.
Okay, Serge.
Is your
Okay,
impression that
can I have a
Serge.
question, please?
Serge,
Thank you.
go.
Serge.
Okay, look, one thing I think it's very important for the entire union, because this crisis is the most serious crisis than we ever had.
Yeah.
And my question is to all of you candidates, how do you plan to restore the trust of the members in the union? What you are planning to do in the future, how we can improve our contract, our working condition, and the trust?
Is this for all four candidates?
Okay, so
Who
we'll
would
do
you
it,
wanna
we'll
start
start,
with?
we'll start at this end, move over,
Right.
so Rick first.
Rick,
Well, that's one of the reasons I got involved in stepping up to the plate and being there, because there's a lot of dissension in the ranks, so to speak, over everything, whether it be the company or the union. The union's over New Jersey, it's seen as being kind of remote. What these fellows said over here, basically it's good stuff. Changing the bylaws, they're antiquated, that's good. But to reach out and bring together solidarity, like I said earlier, before you got here, the union is dropping, and these numbers are rough, but I looked at the website, and it's like $150,000 here, another $150,000 there, and $100,000 for insurance. Now, this money, I don't know where it goes, but when I see that, that looks like a lot to me. Now, I'm just saying the kickback to the membership, that's the kickback that I think people would say, oh, a bonus in our paychecks, not coming from the company, the bosses, but coming from the union. And I would say personally, again, when I sat at the desk of the International along with Karen, James, Andy, Pat Gonzalez, a couple of other people, and because Carlos didn't show, he stiffed us. He was a no-show. They turned around and said to us, "You're a troubled union. We can't talk to you." like we had to kiss their ring, and that's Frank McCann talking. So to me, I go, gee, what have you done for the local 225 lately? And then local 225 could do something for the membership, and that's kicking back money and finding a way to get money to us, because we're hurting. We're hurting money-wise. Money, money, money. And if there's a way that we can sell off something where we make money from the union, not a gray line concept, but where we're the union, where we can put some pressure on these companies so we can be a little bit more capitalistic, that's good. I don't care if it's giving tattoos to the tourists, from our point of view. Whatever it is, that's how we need the union to be a little more proactive, a little more aggressive from the top down. I'm talking about the international too. They're all remote. They're all out there with the bunco artists in Las Vegas. Well, we're getting them together. Yeah, well, what are you doing for us? We're starving. We're bread and water here. I mean, they're talking about saving money in the prisons by cutting down on the prisoners' bread from 8 slices to 6. Why don't you just cut their water ration too to save money? I mean, come on. We're talking bread and water here. This is serious stuff. When they charged, back in 1931, when they turned around and told the taxi drivers, we're going to put in a 5-cent surcharge, you know what they did? They overturned the taxis in the street. They pulled out the drivers that didn't go along with it and gave them a beating, and the tourists who set the cars on fire. No, I'm not promoting that, of course. I don't think we should do that. I'm all against that kind of violence. But the union has to show some responsibility, that they're out there and they got a little more to do than just okey dokey, rope-a-dope, you know what I mean? That's what I think.
You finished?
Yeah.
James?
Excellent question, Serge. The very first thing that we have to do as a union is put procedures in place to make sure that what happened this year can never happen again. Sort of like what the president's trying to do on Wall Street. Put in some financial procedures so that one person cannot make unilateral decisions that affect all of us. And I would really like to report that we've done that, but we have not. We are operating with the same situation as we were last year and the year before. I am, of course, lobbying the executive board to put such procedures in place and codify them in the bylaws. I have not succeeded yet. As soon as I do, I will notify the membership. As far as our union being distant because the office is in Hackensack, well, let me tell you, when I take the bus out there, I know what you're talking about. It takes a long time. However, I can't remember a time, like, if you wanted to contact Carlos Padilla, one of us, how long would it take? But now, you just go to the website on your phone, click a button, you got an email to Richard. He doesn't keep his cell phone secret from anyone, you just ask him, he gives it to you. I know that Bob and Robert and Gilbert are always available for all of you. And I'd say far greater than Andy Sedor was. And he's, of course, a level that shop stewards try to aspire to. But on being open and there for you and able to talk to you and solve your problems, these guys are all over you. So even though our office is physically located, and I believe the rent is closer to $1,800 a month, and Local 226 pays some of that, so our rent is actually pretty cheap out there. I think our end of it is about $12. That's true, and I don't like it, but it is affordable, and your officers here are available to you. The union is here for you.